What's up, guys? Welcome to Canadian Love, a show where we really want to understand Canadians, their political views, and why they believe them. Today we are going to be understanding the political viewpoint of Zombie Jesus. Let's go show him some Canadian love, because Jesus is, after all, about love. Woo! That hurt my sunburn. All right, Canadian Love, I am here with Zombie Jesus, a musical performer who about 10 years back got pulled into this persona and now has a pretty impressive cult following, as well as obviously an amazing horror collection.
Hold on a second. Persona? What are you talking about, my child?
Sorry, following, we'll just say.
There we go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
followers
Perfect.
of Jesus, you know, many of Jesus's followers.
Excellent. Perfect.
Yeah, I really loved your work at Shockstock. Very
Thank you.
enjoyable. And and Jesus has agreed to tell us about his political views today, because Jesus is Canadian.
It's true.
Yeah, so Canadian Zombie Jesus. So I don't know, Jesus, where do I begin? That worked on 2 levels. Yeah, so I guess my first question would be, and part of what we try to do as Canadian Love is we try to understand why people believe what they believe. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask a bit about where you sort of sit politically, then we might go into your lived experience, and then try to bring the two together to try to figure out, the behind the scenes of your political beliefs, basically.
Okay.
So how would you describe yourself as a Canadian member of our political system? Right, left, middle?
Jesus is more right down the middle. I think what a lot of people make the mistake with is that you have to choose a side.
Right. Okay.
Which is just stupid. It's
Sure.
there you need a little bit of both. You need a little bit of conservatism, you need a little bit of libertarianism. You need conservatism because they understand finances. You need the liberals because they understand morality. But if you're only going with one of those, you're just in trouble, because neither of them will work on their own. You have to have a combination of both.
Very interesting. So you feel that liberals are better morally and conservatives are just better with money?
That's basically what it seems like, yes.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So are you like a liberal for social issues and a conservative for financial things?
I would say that's probably about right.
Okay, interesting. So where would we find you on social issues like the environment, feminism? Where are you on those things?
Well, feminism, I guess it all really depends on what type of feminism you're talking about, because unfortunately things like that, they kind of branch off a lot of the time, right?
Interesting.
Feminism and the idea that women should have rights and should be treated respectfully, absolutely, I'm on board with that.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the other thing?
Well, I do want to delve into this a bit
Okay,
more.
yeah.
So tell me about the branches of feminism.
Well, with any ism,
Yes.
because Jesus' big thing is we just need to get rid of isms. They're terrible for everything.
No more isms.
Yeah, well,
Sincerely,
the problem
Jesus.
with an ism is that you prescribe to an idea so hardcore that a lot of the time you'll end up in your own little bubble. And once you're inside that bubble, you can't really do anything. You know, it's kind of like the whole idea, like what's going on in the United States right now.
Yeah.
The Democrats refuse to go on Fox News.
Right.
So the people who watch Fox News will never actually hear any of those other sides of the issues.
Yeah.
They'll only hear the stuff they hear from the Republicans. You have to go outside your bubble.
I don't disagree with that. And actually, that's why we're doing this show, is because we want people from the right and left bubbles to start listening to each other.
Exactly. There's no reason we can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and if there is an issue that you just can't get along on, just change the subject. You know?
Sure, yeah, why not? Really, it's easier that way.
Yeah.
Now, so Fox News, Democrats are refusing to go on? Because I always thought of Fox News as sort of the bad guy.
Well, you see the odd one get on there, but here,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, Fox has its own built-in audience.
Yeah.
And if that audience doesn't hear the Democratic ideas, they're only going to hear the Republican ones, so they're only just going to assume that the Republican ones are right.
Of course. So wouldn't Democrats be jumping to go on there?
You would think, but they hardly ever do it. You get them every once in a while. Like I know Bernie Sanders recently went on there, but the vast majority of the field of people running for president right now, they won't touch it.
Interesting, because they feel that it's
They feel
too
like they're walking into a fox trap.
Interesting. Which I guess, I mean, I like that you said foxtrot. That was good. So is Fox against the Democrats, or is it the Democrats, or is it both?
Fox just seems to have an ideology that they run with, which is very, very right-wing orientated, which I totally understand why most people find that completely disgusting, because in a lot of ways I do too. Sure. Their moral compass seems to be really, really in the gutter at this point.
Okay, in the gutter. I want to hear more.
Yeah.
Why are they in the gutter?
Well, look at the news cycle the way it works, right? So if you look at MSNBC, CNN, any of that sort of stuff, when a big tragedy happens, say like one of the big school shootings is a great example. You know, most outlets will just report the news on that. They won't actually get into opinions on it. They'll just kind of go, this is the horrible thing that happened. For whatever reason, a lot of people on Fox seem to think that it has to have some bigger meaning. And it has to be the Democrats' fault somehow. And you're just kind of sitting there going, can you just let these people grieve before you start throwing your bullshit at them?
Wow.
Because, you know, these people literally just lost their children's lives. And you can't even just do a proper report on saying this horrible thing happened.
Right.
That's morally in the gutter.
Yeah. Wow. That's fair, yeah. I mean, putting their own personal little bias above good reporting, that's...
Yeah. And that's not to say that CNN, MSNBC, and a lot of those other ones don't have a bias as well. They certainly do.
Sure, of course.
But they always ensure that they do that part first.
Right.
And they don't attack the families.
Is Fox News attacking the families?
They certainly have in the past, yes.
You did this to yourselves by... Yeah.
You know, they'll take the gun issue and they'll just kind of turn it right on its head. Instead of saying maybe we should try to have some sort of gun control, they'll just kind of go a completely different route. And it's like, we get it. You don't want the idea of people taking your guns.
Right.
But
maybe right as reporting a school shooting isn't the time to push that agenda.
No, it's really not.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like, I'm totally, like, everybody gives me crap because I make jokes about stuff like that. But the thing is, A, I give it some time, and B, I don't say it to their face. Okay. It's the same thing as saying I want to go see an Anthony Jeselnik show, or when George Carlin was still around, going and seeing one of his shows, and then you get offended by something that they say at their show, and you're going, why'd you go?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So tell me your thoughts on getting offended.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Actually, this goes right back to Anthony Jeselnik before, because this is actually me paraphrasing him, which is, so you're offended. So what? How's your life going to change? Huh. The only reason that you're going to let that happen is if you allow that to actually take force in your life.
Yeah.
When in actuality, you should just let it slide off your back, or try to be somewhat polite and show people the other side of that issue.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
Because nobody's going to listen to you when you get right in their face.
Yeah.
You're bitching to them about their ideas and their beliefs. They're going to get defensive, and as soon as that happens, their blocks go up, and you can't say anything to them.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. Again, that's what we really want to do with this show is, you know, just get people's walls down and get them to actually talk to each other.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I do have friends on the left who feel that it is their duty to get offended by stuff, to be offended on behalf of the people who might get hurt by opinions by jokes that are, you know, that maybe push at people who are in a place of being a minority or in a place of...
Which is always so weird, because they're not actually the people that should be offended. Because it's not them having the things said to them, which always boggles my mind. South Park had an episode years ago, and I'm not going to say the actual word for your purposes here, but the N-word comes up a lot because it's the N-word guy.
Oh, wow.
The whole idea of Randy saying the N-word on Wheel of Fortune by accident, and now he's essentially going through what black people went through back in the day, of every time he goes in the store, it's like, we don't serve people like you in here. We don't do that with people who discriminate. So the whole episode was basically just flipping that whole thing on its head. And all these white people went just insane over it. And then they would go and interview black people, and they'd be like, we're so happy they did that episode because it shows that they understand.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. So if you're going to get offended on someone's behalf,
just don't.
Talk to them first.
Stop it. You're being stupid. Jesus doesn't appreciate it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, if Jesus tells you it's stupid, I mean, Okay, interesting. I mean, that's an interesting point. I definitely at least see the point of if you're going to get offended on someone's behalf, maybe talk to, maybe get their opinion first. Maybe
Exactly.
instead of taking it as an opportunity to say your opinion and why you are personally offended by this for them, maybe instead reach out to them and try to give them a voice and
that's
say,
why
how do you feel about this?
And that's why that the word social justice warrior has almost become a derogatory thing now.
Tell me more.
When it shouldn't be. It should be a good thing.
Right.
But like I was talking earlier about, when you're so hardcore into that ideology, you're in your bubble. You're stuck. That's it. So you need to step out of that and actually listen to some other ideas. Or just, as you said, talk to the people that you're trying to stand up for. Because maybe they don't want you to stand up for them. Maybe they want to do it on their own. Maybe there's actually no problem there in the first place.
Interesting. And I definitely understand the idea of, if you get too entrenched in anything and you stop listening to anything you don't disagree with, how can you learn if you're only listening to things that you already agree with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the issue we're having right now with the internet as well, is everybody's only going to those websites that they want to see.
Yeah.
Whenever they hear somebody say anything derogatory about their ideas, they just turn it off.
Right.
They don't want to listen to the other side no matter what. And I can understand. I used to be like that for a lot of things.
Really?
Jesus used to be a big conspiracy theorist and stuff like that. And then I would see people try to debunk it and I would get pissed off. And then one day I went, maybe I should just read up on this a little bit more. And slowly but surely you start to just break everything down and go, oh, okay, shit, they had a point. Even Jesus can be wrong sometimes.
Even Jesus can be wrong. That's beautiful.
But the important part is learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And not just repeating them.
No, I feel that. I think learning in general is humanity's greatest tool as a species. I mean, it got us this far, right? And I would really like to hear a bit more about how you started, about where you were before you started getting into conspiracy theories, and then which conspiracy theories you were into, and then what brought you out of that to where you are now. It doesn't seem like you're as into it right now.
It's hard to say what got me into it. I guess just general curiosity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was the idea that the world is just a shit place. So when you hear a lot of these things, you just kind of automatically go, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, why not? Why couldn't there be lizard people, or people never landed on the moon and shit like that? And then you actually listen to somebody like David Icke, who was one of those big guys who went on about that shit, and you go, this guy's nuts. I think I understand why he wrote all this now. The man's completely insane.
Okay.
Like, he tried to say he was me.
Like
that's
Jesus.
the first thing, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
When someone else says they're Jesus, Jesus is like, no.
Yeah, that's pretty much a good warning sign, because as we all know, Jesus is right here.
It's true. Jesus, I'm going to have some water.
Absolutely.
So this is very interesting. Thank you very much for going to these conspiracy theories. I kind of want to hear more about your...
Sorry, what? Continue?
Did you just turn water into wine?
Oh yeah, it's just my thing.
Can you do mine?
$50, my child. Hey, the prophet's got to make a profit.
Oh, zing. All right, fair enough. I'll just have water.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Well, that just happened. All right, so Jesus, aside from Nazareth and wise men, tell me a little bit about Canadian Jesus. What area did you grow up in? What sort of, to sum up your lived experience, starting with, where'd you grow up?
Well, Jesus grew up all over the place. As you can probably imagine, Jesus is a bit of a wanderer. Has been ever since he was born.
Fair.
Mostly in small towns.
Yeah.
Until probably about 10 years ago when I decided to come out to Toronto.
Oh, wow. Just 10 years ago?
Yeah, just 10 years ago, yeah.
Where were you-ish before that?
Last place I was in was Stratford.
Stratford?
Yeah,
oh,
one
wow.
of the whitest places you could live in Ontario.
Okay, getting a nod from my camera team. So a lot of white people in Stratford, eh?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Like they're just drawn by theater, or like?
Well, I think the way a lot of places like Ontario works is when a lot of the first immigrants started coming over, you know, a lot of the people from Ireland and stuff like that, it was
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
white culture. So they would start all these little settlements, and obviously they turned into small towns after a while.
Yeah,
So a lot of those would just be those people, and you still see that in a lot of small town Ontario.
for sure.
Where like if a black person walks down the street, it's not even like racism, it's more just they're not used to seeing it, so they stare.
Wow.
You know what I
They're just
mean?
like, what? Black people exist?
Yeah. Well, it's not even that they exist, it's just kind of they're not used to actually seeing them not on a TV screen.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's not even that, well, some of them clearly are racist, but
Right. Although it makes sense why racism would be much more prevalent in small towns because they just don't see a lot of other races.
The bubble.
Ooh, we're back. Yeah, the bubble thing. Okay. Do you feel that growing up in small towns, ending with Stratford, like how did that shape you? Politically or as a human?
Politically, not so much, I don't believe, because most of my political things came more after I left those areas. As far as life goes, I'm not even sure I can answer that for you. I definitely got a lot of my ideals from moving to the city, because as soon as you, again, leave those bubbles, you're opened up to this whole other world and all these different cultures.
Yeah.
So that definitely made a big impact on me.
I bet. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So then...
And also, no more Shakespeare.
alas, poor York. Were you a big Shakespeare fan?
No.
Oh, no.
No, Jesus is not a Shakespeare fan, and living in Stratford did not help that.
Ooh, wow. Fair. Jesus, not a Shakespeare fan.
No,
Sorry.
no.
Sorry, Will. Any reason in particular, or you weren't?
I don't like his use of language. I find it kind of boring to read, honestly. I like the ideas behind a lot of his stuff, but not the full production of them.
Okay,
I
that's
can
fair.
appreciate him for what he is. He's just not my cup of tea.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Personally, huge Shakespeare fan, but when I was a child, my parents would put on cartoon versions of Shakespeare plays that were made into kids' movies, so that's probably why.
There you go.
Yeah, and that'll change you.
Nostalgia is strong.
It very. So then you got to Toronto 10 years ago, and you were blasted into this new world with outside of your bubble with all sorts of different cultures. How was that experience? How did that change you?
Again, that's just a really hard question to answer.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I don't think I could give you an honest answer on that right now. That's something I would actually really have to think about.
Fair. So obviously you got more politically involved, then you found conspiracy theories, then you sort of worked your way out, and now you're just sort of cruising the middle.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. There's bullshit on both sides, man. And there always has been, there always will be.
Yeah.
I'm more the guy who likes to just sit in the middle and throw spitballs at both sides.
And just watch them.
Yeah.
Wow. Jesus, the shit disturber. Fair. So, what would make Canada better in your opinion? What would Canada have to do to pull up its socks, become a better place for everyone? What does it lack right now? You know.
Well, at this very moment in time,
Yes.
Ontario could certainly use some help.
Okay, tell me more about this.
I think people went so hardcore on hating Kathleen Wynne that they just kind of accepted Dofo, or Doug Ford, if you will. We call him Dofo.
Dofo.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to like Dofo, not so much now. He used to be fun, man. He used to be fun.
When was he fun? Like in the election process, or previously when he was like a drug dealer or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, can you tell me that story again about the Rob Ford tour? Because I think that's amazing.
All right, my children. So something a buddy of mine put together a long time ago. It's called Cloven Path Ministries. You can check it out, clovenpathministry.com. So they're evangelical outreach program for Satan. So, Pastor Morgan will go around. He'll do miracle healings for people, miracle breast augmentation. This one poor guy came up. He'd had so much butt sex in the past that they had to sew his butt shut.
Oh, wow.
So he had to use a colostomy bag. And I don't have to tell any of you folks here, but there's no love in a colostomy hole. So, he helps this poor fellow out. But one day he came up with a great idea because he just loved Rob Ford so much. And how can you not? I mean, politics aside, the guy was extremely entertaining.
Fair.
So the idea was to put on a bus tour following the Rob Ford crack scandal sites.
Wow.
And that was the first time we met Dougie.
He came to the tour.
He showed up on one of the tours, yeah. He didn't take the tour, but he showed up.
Did he say anything about his brother's crack scandals?
No, not surprisingly, he skipped over that.
Okay. All right.
But you can actually check it out on YouTube. City TV actually caught it all.
Wow.
So you can just type in ROFO bus tour into YouTube and you should be able to find it.
Okay. So yeah, definitely check it out. For anyone who doesn't have time, what was Doug like at this event?
Pretty much exactly what you would expect. Very like stone cold face, but still trying to be polite and nice to everybody. He was cracking a few jokes every once in a while. When Pastor Morgan informed him that he's from Hooker, Oklahoma, his question right away was, "Oh, are there any hookers there?" Which, again, Dopo, thank you for that soundbite. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, why isn't the internet using that soundbite? Like, that's,
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of material there. Eat your heart out, guys. And then tell me, just quickly, because I loved it, the thing that you did with the bathrooms.
Which one?
With the little...
Oh, yes. Yeah, we would leave little bags of fake crack in the bathroom at the SO station. We would go through on the crack on the tour, so people could get a souvenir.
Mm-hmm, because
you want to take something back with you at the end of that.
Right, and apparently Rob Ford would get his, like people would...
They would drop off these packages there and he would go pick them up, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is the crack in the SO's bathroom? Yes, it is.
Oh, I would have loved to have been on those conversations. Oh my God.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah. We miss Rofo. We're not gonna lie. We miss him.
Yeah. Is there any? I don't know if this would give you an insight on, like, does Doug Ford also have a drug dealing past? Do we know?
I can't say honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, there's definitely lots of things that point to that, but I'm not going to speculate any further than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, quite possibly, but
possibly,
we can't
but we
conclusively say.
Yeah, I can't prove it. So.
Right, and Jesus does not want to get sued for libel by Doug Ford, so.
I don't know. That could be pretty funny. Doug Ford sold drugs.
Yeah. I can't wait for the headline. Doug Ford sues Jesus. Like, oh, that'd be
totally worth it.
Well, I'm on board. If you're planning on doing this, I'm in full support of trying to get Doug Ford to sue you under the name Jesus.
I guess that's all up to your editor.
Wow. Zach, careful. Yeah, amazing. Well, Jesus, thank you very much. Thank you, Jesus, for this really fun interview. Yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying on these bubbles and on how, when you get really entrenched in any view, it just becomes harder to listen, and then, and then it's harder to make good decisions. And I definitely agree that, when people can talk to each other without being offended, and if they want to stand up for someone, talk to the people they're standing up for, that's useful.
And just understand sometimes too that sometimes you need to hear tough love. You just need to have it. You need to have somebody to step in there and tell you how shitty something you're doing is.
Yeah. And that's on both sides, Both sides sometimes need...
Because a lot of time people they don't want to hurt your feelings. So they'll just let something go. And it's like, no, man, if you're a true friend, you will tell them. And they will accept it, or else they're not really your friend. Interesting.
But I think it has to be done like a true friend as well. Like, if
absolutely.
I say something and someone comments like, oh, you're just an SJW piece of, that's not the way a true friend would call you out. A true friend would take you aside and say, hey, listen, you made that comment. I understand that you were making it because of this, but here is the story behind, and you should think about that before you make that comment. Because if someone who had this happen to them hurt, they might be really hurt. Yeah. So, yeah.
Which brings me to one final thing.
Yeah.
Settle up on social media, my children. You guys spend way too much time on it and you take it far too seriously, and that's where a lot of this shit happens all the time. So how about this? We go down to 2 posts a day tops. And every single time you're about to make a post, wait 30 minutes. Just wait 30 minutes. If you still are like, totally, I gotta make this post, go ahead and put up the post. But take a little cool off time every once in a while before you throw something up there.
I dig it. Research breaks. Make a post, and then stop. And then somewhere in that 30-minute break, take 5 minutes to Google it. I'm bad at this, by the way. I need to really take this advice. And then, you have more knowledge with which to make your post.
Yep, same thing if you're just really, really pissed off at something and you're about to fly off the handles. Just take a little break first. Go smoke a joint or something. If you're still really pissed off after 30 minutes and you smoked a joint, okay, you have a serious problem you need to deal with.
I like it, yeah. If 30 minutes and marijuana doesn't chill you out, then this needs addressing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But do it as a friend, you know? Instead of commenting blah, 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 say, hey, listen, I understand where this is coming from. However, here are my feelings with regards to this post. And then, you know, and then it's much easier for the other side to say, oh, wow, thank you for letting, you know, I mean, then the other side will be like, wait, and then they'll go smoke a joint and wait 30 minutes. And then they'll comment, oh, thank you for, yeah, I like it, yeah. I'm going to have trouble with the 2 posts a day rule, personally. But I'll do I mean, Jesus said so I will do my best. All right, well, Jesus, thank you very much. Thank you for being on Canadian Love. We love you, Jesus.
Talk to you later, my children. Make sure to check Jesus out on Instagram at Mr. Jesus Maggot.
Mr. Jesus Maggot. And also, you know, we're a podcast too, and like and subscribe and stuff, right? Is that what I say? Yeah. Okay.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you.
Little box down there.
Oh, yeah. You're better at this than I am. All right. Well, Jesus, here's to Canadian love.
Canadian love.
Not the show, actual love for Canadians.